Ons volgende gas, baie interessant, hy het 'n groot woord gebruik in sy bio, soos hulle dit noem. Ek sal later probeer dit sê. Maar Shaka Sisulu, entrepreneur, besigheidsman, en dan kom hy ook hier van 'n legendariese familie. Big welcome, Shaka.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
It's really nice to be here.
It's the second time I've met you.
Yeah.
And you're a busy guy, so we're going to try to...
We used to speak a lot when you were at that other station.
Yeah, and then I was at when I was living in Joburg as well.
Yeah.
But you did a fantastic thing, but we're going to get to that with that whole bus and train trip to Union Buildings. But just a little bit of background. I mean, for a lot of Afrikaans viewers, I mean, Sisulu, the surname, it's huge. I mean, if you take your grandparents, your father, growing up in a legendary family, part of the history of South Africa, how difficult was it not to live in the surname shadows, if I can say it like that? It's a difficult question, eh?
Yeah, because it'd be easier if I had like two lives and I'd say, oh, that was this way and this way. No, I mean, I grew up knowing that my grandfather was in jail, one of the Rivonia trialists, and there was always a sense of pride that was instilled in us. You know, he's in jail for you, he's in jail for the country, for the future. And, when he came out, he's like a rock star everywhere he went. It was just crowds following us. But him and my grandmother, Albertina Sisulu, were very much about, you just have to live your own life. You have to do the right thing at all times. And it gave us the confidence. When I say us, I meant, my cousin and I, who were very close. So we, very early in life, got into business, our own business. When we started, actually, we couldn't sign the documents because we were under 21.
Yeah, and you were at schools already selling stuff.
Yeah. So,
entrepreneur.
we had that confidence that you can do your own thing and be your own person. You don't have to be us. Just do what you want to do and do it well. And behave. That was my grandmother. She was always like, behave.
Quite funny. And getting the balance, we're not going to just talk politics today, but it's as if I want to say, we can talk about old school ANC, and we had a tough 9 years, in the last 9 years.
Oh, yeah.
And we know there's a kind of two sides, but that's why I say it's like the legendary hardcore people that did some stuff. Was it frustrating now and then to see someone that's really just there for themselves, coming out of a family of a lot of character?
Come on.
How do you get that balance?
Come on,
You've got their numbers. You can WhatsApp them. What are you doing? Mr. Gigaba.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's like watching an older brother or an uncle, do the wrong thing. Because growing up, a lot of people that are senior or were senior in the ANC were people that we called uncle and auntie when we were younger. So there's a dissonance because, I know you in one way, and, that's how I know you. I've always seen you in a particular way, and then I'm looking at you as a citizen. So I'm looking at you as a kid, and how I've known you to be all my life, and how people have spoken about you in glowing terms. And I'm looking at you as a citizen saying, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And it's a very difficult transition. But everybody, I guess, in life wakes up one day and realizes, no, man, my parents actually, I think you messed that up. I think that's part of growing up, where you look and say, I'm not so sure that you know exactly what you're talking about there. And you've raised me well enough to know that what you're doing or saying is the wrong thing.
Now, quite interesting again, I mean, you were involved in politics for a while with the Youth League and years ago. But there was more side of humanitarian.
Like I'm so old,
yeah, you were a bit of, I think you're about 39. No, you turned 40 this year.
Yeah, I turned 40. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, 40. Oh, I've been like looking forward to this for 2 years.
No, then you're old. I mean, they're in their 20s.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Don't get out of here.
Okay.
I thought you were like 18.
Yes, exactly.
18. Wow, thank you so
Yeah.
much. That's a huge compliment.
18-year-old glow.
I'm 45. I'm old.
Are you serious?
Yeah, serious, but I look good at it.
No, you are. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, since you're going to say it.
Claim it. So I want to call it humanitarian work, but it's more, involved in the NPOs, trying to make a difference. Cheese Kids. Is that something you think is like more of a calling than, because I mean, you could become president if you just focused on politics, I think. Where did that change came in?
Which change?
Come in. Now, for you, I don't know if you've ever been in a crossroads, knowing I can go full-time politics.
Yeah.
Or I can be.
You know, I mean, what happens is that people will meet you and say things like that. Like, oh, man, maybe you should do politics. Or maybe you should do this. Or, no, you should do that. And then, you're at a crossroads. You're thinking, should I listen to Rene? Should I not? Which way should I go? I think the most important thing is recognizing that whatever space you're in, you can, and you should make a difference, So whether you are now, like you guys, in broadcasting, when I looked downstairs, I saw that there's this big collection drive that's happening downstairs here. So it's being able to leverage whatever platform you're in to say what needs to be done and how can we do it. There's a limitation to what can be done with politics. I mean, politics is very, very powerful. Politics can change the world, but there's also a limitation because beyond setting the rules, someone has to do something with it. It's like the law. Beyond putting the law down, people have to live it. It has to be enforced. People have to test it. They have to go to court and enforce their rights, They need lawyers. So you need, in a society, all kinds of people, all kinds of occasions, and all of them in their own way saying, what else can I do to make the country better, to uplift my community? And the truth is that, especially for the black people, business is very important. And part of our past in this country is that there was a deliberate attempt to pull black people away from doing business. So don't do business because you must be an employed person. You must be, you must work for that company. And it's important, it's important that that kids younger than me say, oh, you can go into business, you can start your own business, you can run your own business, you can hire people, you can employ people. Oh, I can do that. And then what happens? People always look at someone doing something, then they say, that thing is easy, I can do it. But if there was no person to do it, they wouldn't do it, So it's an important space to say, I'm going to go out and start businesses. I'm going to start businesses in industries that are actually easy to get into, like digital media. But we're going to do something great with it. We're going to grow these companies. We're going to hire people. We're going to work together. We're going to not just have only black people working or only white people working. We're going to have people working together. And create this a strong South African business. And that's, so I guess in this moment in time, that's the calling.
Fantastic. I'm going to stop you there because we're still going to talk dialogue, definitely business, and we're going to talk about racism must fall. How are we going to fight each other in this country? Ons gesels met Shaka Sisulu. As jy die enigste deel van die onderhoud wil sien, is op ons YouTube kanaal. Hy's 'n entrepreneur, besigheidsman. Now we haven't talked about business, but let's just talk a bit about dialogue. You also a guy that you want people to talk. You bring people together, whether it's xenophobia or the racism must fall. How important is it to keep on talking? And I think we had a negative patch in terms of everyone the last 2 years, and especially going up to these elections. What keeps you motivated to keep the dialogue going?
It's a difficult question. Sometimes I also feel like, we should just stop talking. But you're a married man, and when you stop talking, that's when the trouble begins. Sometimes it's very difficult, but you do need to keep talking, keep trying to keep the lines of communication open, being frank, being honest. You realize in really good relationships that when you sometimes don't speak your truth, you're doing the relationship a disservice. But you also need to know when to not say too much. So I think, dialogue is important. There's no way we're going to move forward unless we're talking about the things that matter, our fears, our hopes and dreams. And then somehow we find each other saying, oh, you want to do that? I also want to do that. I could do that. We could do that together. Let's do that. And then, things move forward. So I do think that initiatives that encourage dialogue are very important. But it might not be the way we've been doing dialogue. Now when you even say dialogue, it's like, oh, just so boring. It's a panel. It's a panel somewhere. There's some foundation that's holding a dialogue circle. And then people are going to go. But it's the same people. It's their friends. It's their circle of friends that are going to go, that like dialogue. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, and then they clap. And it's not a real dialogue. It's not as if you have different voices coming into spaces that usually don't have them. You get what I'm saying? It's almost like, it's like me being on the show. It's very different. I wouldn't normally be on the show, but now I am. So that's the kind of dialogue that I think interests me.
Yeah. So it's almost like we need to get the conversation going. And as Jornay said now, it's almost like we're at a point where there needs to come change, especially from a mindset perspective. I want to focus on the youth, the younger people, that needs to take the conversation further. What can we do? What would your advice be to get them to make that mind shift and not to be sidetracked by what someone says, but to have an opinion, an individual opinion, and try not to change necessarily someone else's opinion, but to get the conversation going? Are we getting it right at this stage?
No, I don't think so. All of us here, everybody listening, everyone watching knows that one of the big, dialogues that's not happening is issues of race. And how the races, particularly black and white, relate to each other in South Africa and what our plans for South Africa are. And I think when you talk about the youth, it's very difficult because we grow up in communities, we grow up in lagers. So within black youth, they are saying, well, nothing has changed for us as blacks. Whites still have everything. Whites still control everything. And we also want our share. In fact, we don't just want our share, we want what was ours historically. And then I hear people tell me that white youth are saying, there's nothing for me in this country. There's no future for me. And I'm going to be punished into perpetuity and forever for something that I wasn't even a part of doing. I never told those guys to go do that thing, so why am I being punished? And what's going to happen to my kids, and what are my opportunities, and why am I being pushed out, and so on. So, if young people are saying that, obviously it means that as they grow older, those attitudes will probably harden.
Yeah, if we don't do anything about it now.
Yeah, they'll probably harden, because... I guess you could have dialogue. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe you have more exposure. The races are exposed to each other more. I was told many years ago that Kwame Nkrumah did something very interesting in Ghana because he was worried about tribalism when he first became president of Ghana in the 60s. And he basically put up schools where you were forced to have people of different tribal groupings come to the school. And in that way ensure that these kids grow up knowing each other and having exposure to each other, as opposed to that tribe stays in that lager and that tribe stays over there. I don't know, maybe that's something to consider.
I think South Africans need to find some kind of balance. So what would you say is the solution in terms of being able to acknowledge the past and history, but to look at the future in terms of in an optimistic way?
You're asking me.
Preach it.
Yeah.
We need some motivation.
You look at me like I have some solutions in my bag of tricks. Look, I you know, it strikes me as interesting that now I see reports from Germany saying that they are grappling with an issue of neo-Nazis. But you'd think that if there's any country,
happen, yeah.
right, in the world where it wouldn't happen. And I remember I actually was in Germany as a kid. This idea of we're never going back to that past was really, enforced. We're never going back to that past. And then somewhere, obviously, along the line, someone said, "Oh, well, it's fine. We don't need to push this message so much." The truth is that if let's go back to the marriage analogy. You can't live being reminded of things that have gone wrong all the time. But it's a narrow balance because you also can't forget completely, because if you forget completely,
or dismiss it. You can't, and that's our problem.
And you can't also dismiss people's feelings around what has happened. So, I think maybe you're right. Maybe you do need more interracial dialogue in South Africa, whereby Black people will feel like, okay, whites do understand what has happened, and we see that they feel that it's wrong, and then white people say, okay, we do understand, but we also realize that we're not going to be whipped with this.
Yes.
The future is not going to be chained based on what has happened. But I actually think that it's awkward because I'm a Black guy now talking to white people about,
that's good.
About the solution.
But that's what we need to do. I have to stop you there. We're out of time, but there's a very quick question, a very quick answer. Are we going to get Fikile and Zilla off Twitter? No, I'm joking.
Are you going to get what?
Are we going to get Zilla and Fikile off Twitter?
No,
I'm just joking.
I think I think they're speaking the truth. That's what social media is for. But as I say, everybody has to kind of figure out their own way of trying to make the country better and make a difference. And it may well be that for some of us, we're going to, have more businesses that integrate in the workplace, white and black.
It is actually the only place is South Africa, I think, that is integrated. It was the workplace at this stage. Shaka, we're out of time. But, we'll have another conversation. We didn't even touch business and all your businesses. But please come back.
Push my businesses to the side. And that's really my primary passion.
The reason you were here. Now we were just looking for answers. Thanks for visiting us, man.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me here. Okay, cheers.
Good night.
Subscribe. Playlist. Subscribe. Playlist. Choo.